All right, thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Tobin. I'm an instructional designer at the University of Denver. I am excited that you all came to join today for Gamestorming, leveling up online discussions. I do want to spend a little bit of time setting the tone, but for the most part, this is intended to be a collaborative opportunity for us to really share ideas and get ideas from each other. So I plan to facilitate, and I hope that you will all be driving the conversation around that facilitation. So I have a slide that I'll go over in a couple of minutes that shows different ways to participate and raise your hand. It looks like our numbers are growing. One thing I wanted to say is I appreciate your flexibility and playfulness in this experience. It's a little bit of an experiment. We haven't done this at the ELCC virtual conference before, and I haven't actually participated in a session like this before. So we will navigate it together. All right. So our agenda for today, we'll start with a brief overview where I'll set that tone for what we'll be doing. And then we have our main game, which is the Gamestorming strategy around combining. It's a ThinkerToy, and I'll talk about what that is when I get to that slide. We have a second game that is Heuristic Ideation, but I don't think that we'll end up having the time to get to that one. Usually with this kind of gaming activity, we end up going down rabbit holes and don't want to stop talking about what we're talking about. So if we get to that point, where we don't have time to finish that second game, I'll make sure to share my slides so that you'll have a template you can use to continue that game or use that game with your coworkers or colleagues or friends if you want to continue the conversation around that. And then we'll be ending. So we got an exciting 50 minutes ahead of us. All right, so I talked already a little bit about how I plan to facilitate this conversation, but really hope that you're all ready to play and be silly and take risks and make absurd connections between different ideas. It really is going to depend on your participation to see how interactive we get with all of this. So from the session description, you probably already have a good idea of what Gamestorming is, but just in case you stumbled in here and didn't read the description, Gamestorming is a set of co-creation brainstorming activities that are great for examining things deeply and or exploring new ideas and coming up with new ideas together. It was coined by Dave Gray, Suni Brown, and James McAnufo. I want to make sure I say that right. And you can learn more about it at gamestorming.com. A lot of these activities and the ones that I picked for today should seem somewhat familiar. It's essentially just taking a creative prompt or a way of playing and using that to make brainstorming a little bit more fun. Cheryl, is that my Discord that's beeping or yours? I think it's mine.
It must
I may have stopped it. What's that?
Yeah, I think it's yours. Yeah. It just took off again.
I think I closed it out, so hopefully that won't be distracting us anymore. Sorry about that, everyone. So the guidelines or steps for how we should interact with these games and play with each other. The first is that we'll establish the problem that we'll be talking about today. This is a lot like design thinking for any of you who are familiar with that. Then we'll review the game objective or structure, and then we'll start storming and make sure, again, this is just another reminder to take risks and be silly because we won't have fun if we don't, or it won't be as fun if we don't. All right, so ways to participate. The first would be if you want to raise your hand, and it looks like, how many people do we have in here now, Cheryl? About 34. So just to be transparent, I thought briefly about putting us into breakout rooms, but I didn't want to put the responsibility on any of the participants to facilitate the brainstorming. So I thought it might actually be better, and we'll see, I might be wrong, for us all to brainstorm and play together in one space. So that means we'll need to take turns speaking just to make sure we're not talking over each other. But I'll try, and Cheryl will help me with facilitating, making sure that people get called on when they have something to add. So one of those first ways, or I think the most ideal way, is to raise your hand in Zoom. And if you're not familiar with that, you should be able to do it through the webinar controls. Sometimes that's hard to find though, or sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get to. So if you'd prefer, you can ask to participate by reacting. You can click the reactions in the bottom menu and select an emoji, or you can type in the chat. You could PM the moderator, which is Cheryl Comstock, because I'll be a little busy typing on the screen and trying to capture everyone's ideas. Does anybody have questions about that before I move forward? Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Teresa looks like she's at the top of the list. She might have a question.
Teresa, do you have a question?
Yes, not. Nope.
All right. Great. All right, so I want to set the stage for our problem. In the description, I shared that the thing we'll be focusing on or discussing today is the idea or the concept that traditional online discussions don't always meet the needs of learners. This is somewhat controversial. Some people think that actually the online discussions in their traditional asynchronous sense offer a lot of opportunity for accessibility, for people who maybe are less willing to participate in a face-to-face environment to feel more comfortable engaging. So there are some good sides to discussions for sure. But what I have on the screen here are some articles that sort of substantiate, not really articles, but opinion pieces, right? This theme that's been going on for a while now, that online discussions aren't always the most effective thing or tool for what we're trying to get at as educators. So that will be the problem that we're focusing on today. This game that we'll be playing around that topic could be played with any sort of topic or issue. Any questions about that before I move forward? And I will share this slide presentation so that you'll have access to those links and articles if you want them. Not seeing any questions. All right, so let's get started. So our first strategy is called Combine, and it's part of the ThinkerToy pack, which is part of sort of this book and card pack partnership of the Gamestorming strategies and tools. And the instructions for this game, be ready to be silly, because I'm asking you to pretend that you are an online discussion. So imagine that you are your subject, try to identify with that subject, which is traditional online discussions, or some part of it, and see the problem from its perspective. And we'll be answering these two questions. How would I feel if I were an online discussion? What would online discussions say to us if they could talk? What suggestions would online discussions make to instructors or designers? And before we do the questions, and I'll put them back up on the screen when we start brainstorming, let's talk a little bit more about who we are as an online discussion. So for the purposes of today, we could, go all over the place with different approaches to what a traditional online discussion is. This is why I like having the PowerPoint pulled up. I can edit my misspellings on the slide. So for today, we're talking about a traditional online discussion being one that is fully online and delivered in an asynchronous way. And it would be offered through an LMS, or a learning management system. Is there anything else that anyone in the group would like to add to our persona of our online discussion that we'll talk about today? And remember, if you'd like to participate, you can raise your hand, use an emoji. At this point, I think you could probably just unmute and talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move forward with this persona. All right, this is where I'm going to ask you all to start engaging. And as you share your thoughts and ideas, I will add them to the screen visually so that we can see what we've said and add to each other's ideas. Is everybody ready to play? All right, here's the problem. Traditional online discussions don't always meet the needs of online learners. And here's our first question. How would I feel if I were an online discussion? Or another way of thinking about that, what would I say as an online discussion if I could talk about this problem? I hope you're all ready to play. It's going to be a lot of crickets if you're not.
Reed is saying something, or
Great.
yeah, and Melissa.
Ooh, I like this. Please like me.
I was going to say, it's not my fault you guys don't ask the right questions.
All right, my keyboard is loud. I'm gonna use this one. All right, let's verbally share if people are comfortable with that. And I guess, we can also see what we've written in the chat. So if somebody wants to add to some thoughts that have been put into the chat too.
Don't be so formal.
Thank you.
People come late to my party. Hope it's clear and everyone engages. I'm lonely. Unnoticed because people don't really like me or read me. They skim me. I feel bloated and discouraged. Don't use me as a disguised written assignment. Post once, reply twice is getting old.
Ooh. I feel bloated and discouraged.
Yeah.
Who would the person who said that be willing to share a little bit? Expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, that was me. Hi, I'm Melissa Dewitt. I wrote, I feel bloated and disorganized.
Oh,
Yes.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I like discouraged too. But in terms of bloated and disorganized, just hard to find stuff and sometimes full of content, but what is it and why is it there?
I like it. Does that add any thoughts for anybody else? Where is the instructor? That's a fun one.
Yeah. I'm very wordy. Brevity is not my thing.
Why wouldn't you participate? I'm worth so many points. Am I still relevant? Something else I should clarify is that this first question helps us to start really uncovering some of the things we think might be going wrong with the discussion. And the second question is going to help us dig in a little more around ways that we might start to address these issues and improve on them. What other thoughts are coming up for you all as you think about it this way?
It looks like Lynn might have something.
Lynn. Oh, Len or Lynn?
Lynn.
I'm coming in. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I have some lag, so it's slowing my action down. I've been teaching how to teach online in a university graduate course for 6 years, and I survey all the students, every large classes, and survey all the students every year for 6 years, and no one really reads discussions closely. They fake it. And so that's why I wrote that they almost all skim or read selectively because it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without exception. That's 90% of my students for 6 years, 36 students per class. It's a dirty secret. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Nobody wants to talk about how the students just sort of like do the bare minimum, skim it, and get by. Is that what you're saying? Did we lose you? No one talks about Bruno. All right, what else do we have in the chat here? I feel so happy when you write on my board, and especially when you post your videos. Okay. Anybody want to share verbally, or are we just feeling like chat is a little easier here?
If it's a discussion, should students have to post before they can see their peers post?
Who wrote that? Dwayne.
I did.
Dwayne, would you be willing to try, or anybody, rephrasing that as if the discussion were talking?
Hmm. I'll think about.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'll think about it for a bit.
Okay. What I like about this prompt is that it gets us to start thinking in slightly different ways than we normally do, right? So these issues that we can see so plainly, if we start thinking about how the discussion would describe it, or let's say if it was a totally different issue, like how the hands of a clock would describe why it was broken or what was wrong with it, right? So I'm an online discussion and this is an issue. How do I, as the online discussion, see it?
I don't want to take away from Dwayne if he's still thinking about it, but I was just thinking maybe the discussion would say, if there weren't so many rules to respond, then I would have more responses.
Yeah, I can go with that, or if it was a natural conversation.
Yeah, I like that. So that's sort of getting at the idea that sometimes the more we require from the students, right, or from the learner, the less creative flexibility they have in what they're doing, and the less they actually engage. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but you said, sorry, I missed it. Stephanie and Dwayne, how did you word it again? Students don't seem.
If there were less rules, then students would post on me more, you know.
What if you were thinking about the lack of clarity in knowing what is actually a benefit to an online traditional discussion? So I'm a discussion, and there's things that are great about me, and other people or the students don't see it, right? Learners. I think there's a small enough amount of people who are chomping at the bit to speak that if you feel like talking, you could probably unmute without having to raise your hand. What are some other thoughts everyone's having around this?
We've got a couple more comments in here. One is, I'm stuck here, bring me interesting graphics. And following that is, shucks, why don't people use color more, or audio or video or fonts or graphics? So.
Keep me less structured and more student driven. I can help you learn more perspectives. I love it. New perspectives.
About more open-ended, because I think if our discussions are more open-ended, if there's kind of more directions that you're letting them go, or more questions and you only have to answer one of them, then students will not all have the same response. So you get more variety of responses by making more open-ended or more varied options for participating in initiatives.
How's this? Use more varied options, please. People will engage with me more. Does that sound good? Dr. Cosmic Boredom here. Come join my scroll of death. It's a form of digital waterboarding. Come on in. You know you'll love it. Len, will you share a little more around that?
Yes, I will. There's an evil side. You know, we're talking about these creative avenues and all these other things, but the evil side is that people don't use this very well. And so the result is what we call the phenomenon of online discussions is the scroll of death. And it's also been likened to digital waterboarding because it's so painful to students. I do different things, and a lot of things we describe here, but I was just playing the doppelganger of the good guy, because most discussion boards are bad guys, like Dr. Cosmic Boredom.
So to clarify a little more, when does it specifically feel like digital waterboarding?
When you read the same thing over and over, drip, drip, drip.
Mm-hmm.
When it's too much to accommodate in your mind with your cognitive limits because it's long, long, long. When it's structured to be painful, post and answer 3 responses for each item that's posted. Those kinds of things make it waterboarding instead of instruction.
Can I add when it seems like busy work? Like it's not relevant to the learning?
That's another one of my pet peeves. You've got it. You nailed it. Perfect. Online learning drives us to more busy work than we would use in a non-online setting.
Do you think that that is an all-encompassing statement, or that it can do that? Or that it often does that?
Often.
Okay. Who else has thoughts that that brings up for you that you'd like to share? As a learner, I literally embed the questions to ensure I don't miss them. I enjoy a variety of reflection and examples. Or I like talk, 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 like drip, drip, drip. I'm scrolling back up through the chat here to see if I missed anything. Why can't this just be organic? What was that? I'm sorry, whoever just spoke either is breaking up or I have a bad connection.
I think that's Dwayne trying to speak again.
Did you hear him all right, or was he broken up for you too?
He was broken up, so maybe he has a lagging connection. He might want to type the question or the response.
Okay. While we wait for Dwayne, I'm going to keep scrolling, and then if we're ready, we can move to the next question. Don't be so formal, y'all.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Y'all.
Y'all. Melissa, I still love the word bloated.
So Dwayne has posted, why are so many quotation marks required?
Quotation marks required. Oh, like if you're requiring students to cite references all the time. And I could see how if you're doing that in a discussion where you're actually wanting more personal reflection, that asking for citations and references would just be overkill. And what's the point? Is that, yeah? Looks like he wrote, yep. Why so many formal requirements?
And Heather posted another note.
When as a learner, we are given reflection as a choice, we can provide our own perspectives, especially if a criterion is provided. All right, this is actually a great segue. So we're starting to come up with some ideas for improving these issues that we've seen, right? Or that the discussion has started to point out to us are problematic or not great. So let's move to the second question, which allows us to sort of dig into that more. And I'm going to copy and paste what you've said here, Heather, into our next screen so we can think about it a little bit more together. So still the same problem that traditional online discussions don't always meet the needs of online learners. The question we're answering now is, what suggestion would we, as an online discussion, make to instructors or instructional designers? And so far, we have Heather's thoughts that given reflection as a choice, where we're allowed to give our own perspectives, it can add, I think, and I feel like I might be putting words in your mouth, so please feel free to jump in, Heather, but it gives us more opportunity and more incentive to really provide a creative flair if we have a little bit of criterion, but we've also got that flexibility to do so. Does that sound right, Heather?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Do you want to add some more to that?
It's more engaging for me, and it makes it more interesting when you're required to respond to other people and you're encouraged. So if the instructor in the assignment encourages you to provide feedback and question more so that you can learn more. So all pieces of that allow you to actually learn more about your classmates, but you also learn more about the content because everybody's perspective is going to have a different take on it.
So the way I've written this here, would you agree, sort of captures what you're saying from the voice of the discussion?
Yep.
All right. What other suggestions might online discussions make? Diversify the ways in which people can participate through video, voice threads, or written responses, for example. Let students post or speak when they have something interesting to say. Some will make an initial post, some will reply, some will just read or not participate that week. Grade overall participation for the entire course, not weekly. Alla, will you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. We had these conversations, and I'm an instructional designer at George Mason University, where faculty were concerned that weekly participation was like beating that dead horse and repeating the same messages over and over again, even with well-structured prompts. And sometimes it felt that students didn't put a whole lot of effort into their posts. But if you kind of open it up and follow this natural pattern that occurs in your face-to-face classroom, where people speak when they actually have something to contribute, it actually led to higher quality conversations. And in terms of grading, you could simply require 2 posts per the entire course, or whatever number you choose, and only grade that. It also helps with large enrollment courses because you have less grading to do.
Yeah, I love that idea. So if I were the discussion, I might say, consider less structure around the number of posts, the frequency of posts, etc., and allow for a more natural pattern of contribution when people have something to say or write.
You got it.
And then grade overall rather than by week. I like that. I could see how it might be. I know that sometimes there are issues with people not posting often enough if they don't have to, but if overall they're expected to post a certain number of times during the course, and then it's up to them when they do, I could see that working well. Thank you for sharing that. Ooh, Reed, okay, show more presence. Are you speaking as the discussion to the instructor?
Yes.
Do you want to add a little bit to that?
I think as a previous online student myself, instructors rarely showed presence in the discussion boards. And I think there are often reasons for that. Like they're trying to create a more naturally flowing discussion between students, but that ends up feeling like you don't have an instructor present. And so it feels difficult to engage.
Yeah. When you don't, people feel disconnected and are less likely to engage, right? Does that sound right?
Totally. Thanks.
Yeah. Melissa, I'm going to come back to your comment. I think it's wonderful. And actually, it would be a great segue into our next game. So if you don't mind putting a pin in that for a second. And Heather, you wrote provide options and choices. Do you mean in prompts to answer, ways to answer, all of the above?
All of the above. And they're kind of covered in the video, written, or voice. So multiple ways. And then prompts. There doesn't have to all look the same.
I like it. All right, and Sue wrote, allow students to be creative within their participation, e.g. post a meme response, reply with a tweet using a tweet generator. That's a fun one. All right. All right, does anyone else have something that they're dying to share on this question or that they'd like to share before we move into the next game? We actually do have time and I'm very excited about doing this with you all. Okay. Oh, Melissa's responding to Sue. My dream is to have an entire discussion using GIFs only. Oh my gosh. And is it GIF or GIF? Am I saying who's making fun of me right now? GIF, whatever it is, that sounds wonderful. I like conversations that are only that too.
Technically, it's a GIF. GIF is peanut butter.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. GIF. That's awesome. All right. Heather's laughing, just not out loud. I like it. Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit more of a stretch. I hope you're all ready. So this one is called Heuristic Ideation. This one comes directly out of the Gamestorming book rather than the ThinkerToys deck. And the instruction for this game The objective is that we'll be generating new ideas by remixing attributes of existing ideas. The more different or surprising the combination of attributes, the more compelling the ideas should be. So Heather, or was it Melissa? Melissa had shared with us in the last, I'm going to make a duplicate of this slide here so I can put this on the screen for you. Heather shared this thought, which I think plays really nicely with this idea. What do online discussions look like outside of higher education? Are there elements we can capture from those or in online classes? So using this, I think we can generate some criterion. And let me show you what I mean by that. So for heuristic ideation, what we would do is identify 2 categories of attributes to remix together. And then we would say, for each of those categories, we'd make a list of different items or attributes. And then we would combine those attributes to come up with surprising new ideas. So I'm going to crowdsource with you all some ideas for what the category items can be. I think the first one should be other online discussions. So like chat boards, for example. What are some other examples of other online discussions? Reddit, Jamboard and Flipgrid. Wow, this is not cooperating. Come on.
People are still responding to the GIF question. So, when I went to graphic design classes years and years ago, they always said it had to be a GIF, not a GIF. So I'm just going by what I learned.
So yeah, thank you. So one thing, if we're yes, Discord, thank you. If we're picking different types of online discussions, let's stick with like, oh, man, like I'm trying to think of the name of, if you have a community, an online community that has just a chat board, right? I think it's just a chat board, right? Slack is a good one. Not necessarily the tools we use in a classroom to create, but something that's different from the classroom environment. Blogging, nice. All right, so what should our other category of criterion be? Ooh, Trello and Teams. I feel like Reddit and Discord are sort of the same, yeah? No, they're different. Slack and Discord are similar, so maybe we can do Trello Teams instead of Slack. All right. Okay, so maybe our other criterion can be the issues we've noticed with online discussions. So let's revisit what we've talked about as far as what an online discussion would tell us is wrong. What did these lists of ideas we had bring up as far as lists of issues of online discussions have, or traditional online discussions have? Too prescriptive, too rigid. What else?
Repetitive.
Thank you. Anything else? Oh, I can't spell. One size fits all not. Generic. Anything else?
Boring.
Boring. I love it. Okay, so now we have 4 issues and 4 different types of discussions. So this is going to take a little bit of a stretch, but let's say that we combine this issue of rigidity with what does Discord or Slack do well to get around that? And what is an idea for a way to improve an online discussion that incorporates something that Discord or Slack does well and helps us to overcome the problem with rigidity, too structured of rules?
Oh, okay. I think, can I talk? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm thinking for rigidity and blogging, there's
Nice.
no time limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can have ideas from like a year ago pop up and then someone finally responds, right? And so I think that would that's one aspect of it being rigid, that there's usually time constraints. So I don't know. Am I on the right track, Heather?
I love it. Yeah. So how might you take this concept of something being ongoing and having no time limit and apply it to a discussion, an online traditional discussion?
So like, for example, a lot of times they'll ask a question in the beginning of course, like I just finished my master's last year. And then it's like, obviously I don't know anything in the beginning of the class. I like say what I know. How about we come like back to that first discussion and answer how we feel now? And like, look at my silly, dumb answer and then like fix it. Or like, how can we add on to it now that we finished?
I love it. I'm just playing with how we can see all this on the slide at the same time, but that's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we got a couple ideas here. Denise says, create a video using avatars and memes for your discussion posting. What is that combining in your mind?
In my mind, this is Denise. Or in everyone's mind. I was just trying to think of a creative way where students get engaged because they like doing creative little videos like they do for what's it called? The social media, TikTok and things, but make it graphic oriented with, so if they don't want to show themselves is what I was trying to think of.
Mm-hmm. So from what we have up here, you know what I want to do? I hope everyone's okay with this. I'm going to replace Reddit with social media. I hope you're all right with that. And then do you think that's addressing the issue of it being boring or generic more? Denise?
Boring.
Boring?
Yes.
So how would you word that? You'd say, oh, you already did. Okay, have students learn or have learners create video. Avatars. Got it. Instead of their faces.
They probably have more ways than we know to do that.
Right? And maybe it's we can add to this and say they choose how.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got a couple of good ideas so far. I like it. All right, Goran says Snapchat. My grandkids use it to augment reality. Ooh, okay. So that could maybe go along the lines of fixing the issue with discussions being more generic, right? Like one size fits all. Or are you adding, Goran, to the idea that Denise had around creative options?
I'm easy either or.
Either or.
I was thinking along the lines of Snapchat, Goran, I'm not sure if I said your name correctly, that like they love being on a streak, right? They talk about these Snapchat streaks that they're on with friends. So wouldn't it be awesome if they had like a discussion streak and you can gamify it where it's like, you know, Susan has been on a streak for 8 days, like responding. I don't know, they love these Snapchats. If you ask them, how long have you been on a streak with a friend? It could be months. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Good.
love
Good.
having that like gamifying experience.
Yeah. Bingo.
Who was that? Was that Denise speaking? Sorry, it didn't show up on my screen.
No, that was Stephanie that just
Stephanie.
spoke.
Thank you, Stephanie. I hope you're okay. I added that as a way of taking sort of the idea of tracking progress in something like Teams or Trello and addressing the issue of discussions being repetitive. And I think I captured what you said around streaks, gamifying the experience by making their progress visible. Does that sound good?
Yes, you're so awesome at putting everything all together.
Oh man, thank you for the compliment. All right, we got 3 amazing ideas so far. Discord / Slack allows, this is Melissa, allows for different channels. This could address either the rigidity or the repetitiveness. You join the channel or discussion that most aligns with your interests. Ugh, I like this idea too. Okay, let's do rigidity. All right, how do I want to word that? Feel free to help me out here, Melissa.
I don't know if it comes down to like choice or allow students the choice of the discussion or like channel that they participate in.
So allow students to join channels or discussions by their topic of choice. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, this is the fun part. We're coming up with ideas that I never would have thought of on my own. I hope you're all feeling the same way. All right.
It
Have
applies to
students lead.
Teams too.
Say that again?
It applies to Teams, Microsoft Teams, I assume.
Oh yeah, because they can pick channels there as well. Did I put that in the wrong spot? No, she said Discord, Slack, and then it also applies to Teams. What's a way we could put a different flair on it in Teams?
Pick your team.
Oh my gosh. It's like a kind of similar to group work, right? But more of a choose your own team, and it can be based on topic or subject, right?
Yep.
But self-selected based on topic. And then they also have the workspace to kind of collaborate together built in. Or if we're doing this in an online discussion, we could say, depending on your LMS, right? Whichever one you decide to pick, whichever team you pick or self-select, you then have like a wiki page if it's Canvas or something like that. Maybe that's external that allows you to work together around that theme over time with milestones like Trello would give you. All right, Teams, Discord, and Slack can all do that. Great point. Denise asked, has anyone used Flipgrid? Feel free to start talking if you had. If we have too many people, we'll do hands.
Heather, I think Stephanie responded to me. She's used it, and she said in her Spanish class and that the students like it. And there's, I think, out on YouTube. I didn't realize that we have it as part of our Microsoft package. So it's anyway.
Great. So what made you think of Flipgrid?
I think when I was looking at my Microsoft package yesterday, because I had to have my computer re-image and I saw all these things associated, I'm like, oh, I didn't know we had that. But they kind of, IT picks and chooses what they kind of turn on. So I didn't realize it. So.
Yeah, I think what I like about tools like that too is that you can take, if there's functionality that's not offered in the learning management systems version of the discussion, you can create more functionality by using a tool like that, right? Or using it, embedding it if your institution has the LTI for it, right? The integration for
thanks. It.
And then Dr. Summers says that their mic isn't working, but they have also used Flipgrid and Padlet. Thank you, Heather. Generic is looking lonely. Let's do something around generic. Good point, Corin.
So one of the things Sue Torney, who's also in here, and myself have actually been creating an innovative discussion boards to share with other people. And one of them is that they have to create a TikTok based on whatever the main idea for the week was or something like that. But like for mine, I gave them, most TikTokers have a specific style that they record in. And so I gave them examples and they have to record in that person's style.
Wow.
And then I also did an Uber discussion where they had to record a video where it was if they were getting in the car with an Uber driver and explain to them like the most important thing that they learned that week in class. And they really liked that one too.
I'm sorry, I was busy typing this one. Will you repeat that one again?
Yeah, I had them do a video as if they were getting in the car with an Uber driver. And so I had them share a picture of like what car they would want to be picked up in. And then they had to explain to the Uber driver what the most important thing that they learned that week in class was.
That's fun. I put that in blogging because I feel like it's a functionality that you might find in blogging where you'd be able to create sort of a story with an image and a narrative. Does that work
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Those are both awesome ideas. Thank you. We're starting to run out of space here. Stephanie was thinking the same thing as Melissa. What did Melissa say? Oh, and Miha said, for discussion posts in my class, students have to make their initial posts as Flipgrid videos, and the responses can be comments or video replies. That's fun. And Melissa said, for social media, I'm interested in the idea of lurking, people who read threads but do not participate, and how that is still a valuable learning experience. Wonder if there's a way to incentivize lurking in discussions by having an alternative assignment that lets you discuss what you learned through lurking. Stephanie says, I was thinking the same thing. Make lurking matter. All right, where can we put make lurking matter on our board? Rigidity. Right, because now we're not saying you
Lurkers
have
could
to.
issue a badge to the best post.
They could issue each other badges to bet.
Yep.
Oh, like what is that? Is that like Discord and Slack where they can kind of
No,
uptick or
even in LMS, I mean, they could vote on the best whatever discussion forum, and that person, that student would get extra points.
Yeah, that's what it is. Say you can like upvote
yeah.
the best one.
Does that work? I think you can upvote in Discord and Slack, right? Or is that more of a blog thing? That might fit more along with the lines with the blog, right? Where people can comment and like each other's contributions.
I think Slack, you might be able to upvote things.
Yeah, in Slack you can also I think in Slack you can also use emojis. I think it's kind of built into all of these now, because even in Teams I can thumbs up someone's stuff.
I kind of wish we'd left Reddit on here now because I know you can upvote there, right? And it actually moves it to the top. Shoot. If we had more space, it could be yet another column.
Like in Canvas, you can also click the option that to allow liking in the discussion post.
Nice. Does anybody on here have an LMS that's different from Canvas?
We have D2L. You can have the students star vote how many stars the discussion merits.
I like it.
I don't think a lot of people use that, but it is available.
Yeah, right. Correct. Yeah. I don't know why they don't, but.
Oh, I am not hip. I don't even know how to spell emojis. All right, there we go. Okay, what else can we add here?
I don't really have an answer, but I just have like a thought that a lot of times like the questions that are asked are so like linear, yes or no, I agree or I disagree. And so like I think Len was talking earlier saying like that's why it sounds like the drip, 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 everything sounds the same. So if you had like the question be more robust and then like maybe say like why you chose, like, you know, you can do pictures, like what picture do you relate to the most and why? So even though you might only have, it's still kind of tight. I don't know. I can't come up with an answer, but I just feel like a lot of times it's a question. I'm like, oh my God, it's like someone already said yes, someone already said no. And I'm just gonna be another yes person. So it's like, how do we change that question?
Okay. So far, what I'm pulling from what you said, and I love it, is change the questions. And I think this addresses the issue with repetitive. How would social media change the question? You know what it actually is making me think of is how, like in Instagram, this is going to show my age a little. When, you know, it started with all just like you post a photo and then you could post albums of photos, and now you can post to your feed, which I still haven't figured out, but the feed allows you to share content in a different way. So it sort of changes the question, right? And gives you more option instead of it being the same answer from everybody. Does that kind of get at what you're saying? Like your story, Insta story versus your wall.
Yes, I think it's just like, or if the question, like, I guess, you know, even if it is two-sided, like, I guess people are writing in the chat, like making the responses be different, or like someone wrote describe or provide examples. I know it sounds really silly. I never really thought about that.
And actually, that also makes me think about just the idea of integrative learning, right? Of allowing people to make connections between whatever they're learning and something that's personal or relevant to them, which gives you more variety in their response, right? But it also makes it more personal and useful to them if you give them that option. It kind of reminds me, I think it was Melissa or Heather that was talking about something similar earlier. Connection. Okay. Heather says photos, albums, and videos, how the questions are written or why not let them come up with the question. Oh yeah, and someone had said earlier, allow the students to also create the question, right? Who was it that wrote that? I'm trying to find it. If it was you, chime in.
It wasn't me, but we did have an activity where each student team would have to facilitate a discussion for the topic they had researched. And so in addition to the instructor's questions prompts, they would write their own, and the participating students got a choice. They could choose the prompt from the instructor or from the facilitating team. So sometimes giving them choices helps.
All right, so similar to how someone might create a thread or a channel around something that they have interest in Discord or Slack, right? Ask the learners to co-create the discussions or to lead those discussions themselves.
Yep.
Goran says, what about real-time whiteboard collaboration on hard science problems? Oh my gosh, or any problems. Hard science might be a little over my head, but. So that's where you add the visual element, right? And you're collaboratively working out an idea visually together.
Right, like in Trello, you can just have a big engineer graph paper and students start writing, you know, like load tracing on a building or on a bridge. Because face it, I have one instructor who just is beside herself. She can't get the students motivated normally, you know, watch my lecture, do the problems and so forth and so on. So something has to be worked in differently than what's been happening.
Yeah, actually, so I feel like I don't know if I should put that on generic or boring because it addresses both. It's a good one.
Heads or tails, you know.
Right? Maybe we'll put it in boring since boring's a little lonely. All right, so we have about 7 minutes left and I am going to stop sharing the screen in just a second here, but I'll make sure that what I upload to what I have uploaded to the conference website includes all of the notes that I captured from you all today on the slides. So you'll be able to see everything we talked about and download it and clear it out and reuse the template if you want, or add to it to come up with more ideas. This is just my last slide, my credits, just identifying that my images and my slide template were from different resources. If you want to get a hold of me, this is my LinkedIn. Stephanie says, apparently I need to learn more about Trello. Same, I've used it maybe once. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing now. And if anybody has additional thoughts or ideas they'd like to share, we can do it through video chat. Oh, actually, am I 4 minutes over, Cheryl, or am I 6 minutes?
No, you had an 85-minute session.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Well, I thought I had an hour session. So we have plenty of time. We can go back and play some more if y'all want to.
You have 85 minutes. So technically you don't end until a quarter after.
All right. So I have 19 minutes left.
Whoop, whoop.
Great. We have 19 minutes left. And we are dwindling.
I wanted to bring forward, and I wanted to wait till the end because I wasn't sure where you were going with this, Heather, but these are all fantastic ideas. We have a group that is piloting a tool called Yellow Dig at Ames Community College, which is very close to what you were talking about. It's wrapped around the idea of social media, and people post things that are related to the conversations that are going on that originally were asked by the faculty member. And then they can either post a full response to somebody and get full points towards it, or they can like it, or just add a comment towards it, redirect the conversation a little bit and still earn points. But the point system, which I'm still a little bit fuzzy on, is completely different. That's the hard part, because you can't say my discussions are just worth the 300 points. They start adding up into like 1,000 points somehow, but there's some, it's like weighted grading where it flips it over, so it could actually be 300 points. So that's the piece that I don't quite get.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting, and we've got, I think, about 28 people piloting right now, and the majority of the faculty are enjoying it, and our students that have been surveyed are enjoying it as well. So let me know if anybody's interested in finding out more, and I can connect my faculty that's leading this project to you as well.
So Cheryl, you're talking, you called it Yellow Dig. Is it the
Yes.
same Yellow Dig that I just put in the chat a link to one of the articles about you know, the down or the limitations of traditional online discussions from Yellow Dig? Is that the same group?
Yes.
Nice. So you all are working with that group, or you all?
We were offered an opportunity to pilot X amount of sections, I think, at Ames, trying it out. And we've got, like I said, I think about 28 faculty testing that out right now. So
Nice.
yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, I can connect you with a faculty member. She's mentoring about 10 other faculty through this process, and then other people have just kind of jumped on board based on what's going on with it. But everybody seems to really be enjoying it, and it really does break away from the traditional boredom of, you know, post twice, and I can't remember. I've never really followed that one when I was teaching, but what most people say is where you post once and respond twice to your peers or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really think that getting students to start thinking differently and drawing them, because they are tend to be more enthusiastic about social media. Maybe if these tools have those abilities in them, maybe it would make them more interesting for the students.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they end up getting bored with the conversation too. They're ready to move on somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, one of the other things I've done is like I teach a health policy class, and we were talking about how politics affect health policy. And so instead of letting them share what their opinions were, I assigned them a political party that they had to research and share what their status was on health policy. Or other ones, I've asked them that they had to play devil's advocate. So they had to question and give the opposite opinion of whatever was being discussed.
Thank you. Ala, are you still on here? You had shared in the chat that you're piloting Harmonize. What is Harmonize?
Oh, I'll post a link. It's an alternative discussion. It's an external provider, so we have to get an account, and they're not very cheap, but it does provide a more engaging platform where it's very easy to drop in media, you know, images and videos, and students can annotate the videos and the images. But the nice thing also is that you can see who else is online right now, and you can chat in real time. And you could also, for instance, I'm doing a large enrollment math class that is run by a team of TAs in addition to the professor. And so there is a way to mark the best answer, highlight the best answer given by a TA or by another student. So that's another positive thing, and you can easily integrate it with Zoom, which is another tool we're using. So yeah, we're giving it a try. So far it's going well.
So Ala and Cheryl, would you both be willing to share an email address or something if people wanted to follow up with you about how you're piloting those two things?
Well, I'll know in a couple of months though, but sure.
Okay. I can, if you're comfortable with it, and you can talk to me about this outside of the session if you want to, whatever is best, but I can add that to the slide, or I have a slide for just other ideas that I'm trying to capture what people shared.
Yeah, our faculty's name that's running the pilot is Francie Rotini. So I'll send her an email and have her contact you.
Okay, I think I know her.
You probably do. I think she's been at Elk, and she's
Yeah.
been at these for a number of years.
Yeah, she's who I'm thinking of. She's wonderful.
Yeah. Super energetic.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Ala. I will add those to the slides. What other questions or thoughts would people like to add? We have about 14 minutes. We can go back and play more if you all want to also.
Heather, would you be able to share your information again in the, I know you had a slide up earlier.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the chat also. So I can also add my email in the chat. Oops.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Let me just find it. All right.
This was a very interesting conversation today. I felt like it was really, I like the way you broke things down and really thought about how you could make things more intrinsic for the students and more exciting.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I feel like if we had been in person, we would have gotten so much more, you know, we would have been able to really dig into it. It's hard when you're virtual, right? To find the right balance, but I did a sort of a troubleshooting run of it with a couple of my colleagues and worked out some of the kinks, but I think there are a few more that need to be worked out if this is something we would do in a digital format again, for sure. Anybody have any suggestions around that or ideas of how it could have gone better?
From my perspective, I really enjoyed it, and taking it from the perspective of if I were a discussion, I did have to wrap my brain around that because I could think like the instructor or the student, and I can think about the learner's perspective because I'm going through it both ways. So I work on both sides of things. I had never actually considered, which did get me out of my thinking one way to the if I were the discussion. So I enjoyed the format myself.
Oh, good. I'm not sure what to fill this time with. I'm here for 15 more minutes. I'm not going anywhere. So if anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.